Welcome to our channel Book by Book. Today we're looking at a really interesting one, Super Thinking, the Big Book of Mental Models. It's by Gabriel Weinberg, the DuckDuckGo founder, and researcher Lauren McCann.
Yeah, this one definitely caught my eye. I mean, it feels like everyone listening is probably swimming in information, right? Lots of noise, decision fatigue. It's exhausting.
Exactly. And Super Thinking argues that the most successful people don't just have more facts rattling around in their heads. They have this kind of mental toolkit, frameworks they can reuse, mental models.
And that's the key thing. These aren't just abstract ideas. The authors apparently looked at over 300 models from all sorts of fields: physics, economics, psychology, you name it.
Wow, 300.
Yeah, and they distilled it down to about 130 or so practical ones. So our goal today is to grab maybe the most powerful few that you can actually start using to be, like the book says, more right and less regretful.
Yeah, less regretful sounds good. It's about smarter speed, not just doing more faster.
Hmm.
So where do we start? What's foundational?
Well, the first big hurdle, especially if you've got experience, is just inertia. Doing things the way they've always been done or relying on analogy. That's where first principles thinking comes in.
Okay, explain that a bit.
It basically means you have to mentally demolish the problem down to its absolute basic truths, ignore conventional wisdom, ignore how it's supposed to be done, and rebuild from the ground up using only fundamental facts.
Okay, that sounds intense and maybe time consuming. I mean, you can't do that for every single decision, can you? Like deciding what socks to wear.
No, definitely not for socks. The authors are clear it's for the big stuff. The critical problems where the standard way seems off or maybe costs seem way too high for no good reason.
Gotcha.
The classic example they use, I think, is Elon Musk with batteries. Instead of just accepting the market price per kilowatt hour, he asked, okay, what's actually in a battery? What are the raw materials?
Oh, right, like nickel, lithium, cobalt, whatever.
Exactly. And then, how much do those raw materials cost if I just buy them on the market? And, surprise, surprise.
The raw materials were way cheaper than the finished battery price suggested.
Precisely. It showed the established price wasn't some law of physics. It was built on layers of maybe inefficient processes, old assumptions, stuff like that. First principles thinking exposed that.
Okay, that makes sense for big strategic things.
Mm-hmm.
What else is foundational?
So paired with that is inversion thinking. This one's really useful. Instead of asking, how do I succeed? You flip it completely. You ask, what would absolutely guarantee I fail?
Oh, interesting. So like pre-mortem thinking.
Sort of, yeah. It's a fantastic risk management tool. If you're launching a project, don't just list the steps to success. Spend serious time listing, say, the top 5 ways this thing could spectacularly crash and burn.
And then you build defenses against those specific failure points first.
Exactly. It shifts your focus from just hoping for the best to actively preventing the worst. Want to save money? Don't just plan to save. Figure out what makes you not save impulse buys, forgetting, and then set up blocks, like maybe automating transfers or deleting shopping apps.
Okay, so those help challenge external assumptions and risks. But the book talks a lot about our own minds tripping us up, right? Biases.
Oh, absolutely. This is a huge part of superthinking. They call them optical illusions of the mind, which I think is a great way to put it. Even with great frameworks, our brains have these built-in shortcuts that can mislead us.
So what are some key ones they highlight?
Well, there's anchoring. We all kind of know this one. The first piece of info we get really sticks and influences everything after.
Like in a negotiation, the first salary number thrown out sort of sets the whole range for the discussion.
Exactly, or buying a house. If the seller starts with a crazy high price, even if you negotiate way down, you feel like you got a bargain relative to that first anchor, even if the final price is still kind of high for the actual market value.
That anchor just drags you, doesn't it?
It really does. And then there's the really sneaky one, confirmation bias, which, let's be honest, is probably worse now than ever with algorithms feeding us what we already like.
Yeah, you decide you want a certain gadget, and suddenly all you see are the 5-star reviews, and you kind of skim past the ones mentioning it breaks easily.
Right. You're subconsciously filtering reality to match what you want to be true. It's super common in investing, too. You hear a hot tip, believe it, and then only pay attention to news that supports the tip, ignoring the warning signs.
Okay, anchoring, confirmation bias. What else?
Availability bias. This is where we overweight stuff that's recent or really memorable or vivid in our minds.
Like if there's a big plane crash reported everywhere, people suddenly get more scared of flying, even though statistically, driving is way more dangerous.
Exactly that. The dramatic, easily recalled event looms larger in our minds than the boring, long-term statistics. We mistake vividness for frequency.
Okay, so we need models to catch our own mental mistakes. But what about external stuff? Like how data gets presented?
Right, that's the next layer. The book calls them statistical and logical traps. Basically, ways we get fooled by numbers and arguments, often unintentionally.
The big one here must be correlation versus causation.
Right. Absolutely number one. Headlines scream that eating chocolate lowers heart disease risk, or something similar. And maybe there's a correlation. People who eat moderate dark chocolate also tend to have healthier lifestyles overall.
But the chocolate itself isn't necessarily the cause of the lower risk. It's just associated with other factors that are causal.
Precisely. The media loves these correlation stories because they're catchy, but they rarely prove X causes Y. It's just they happen together. Like ice cream sales and crime rates both going up in the summer. Heat's the likely cause for both, not one causing the other.
Yeah, good old summer.
Yeah.
Okay, what other statistical traps?
Survivorship bias. This one is huge, especially when you look at success stories like startups or famous people.
How so?
Well, we study the winners, right? The Bill Gateses, the unicorn startups. We analyze their strategies, their habits, and think, that's the formula for success.
Okay, but what's the trap?
The trap is we only see the survivors. We don't see the thousands of other people or companies that had the exact same brilliant strategies and habits but failed anyway, maybe due to bad luck, bad timing, or some tiny unseen factor.
So we're drawing conclusions from a totally biased sample. We ignore the massive graveyard of failures.
Exactly. It makes success look purely like skill or strategy when often there's a huge element of chance we just don't account for because the failures are invisible. That should really make you pause before copying someone else's guaranteed path to success.
That's humbling. Okay, so we've got tools for challenging assumptions, spotting biases, seeing through dodgy stats. How do we apply this stuff to actually doing things? Like managing our time and effort.
Right, because time is finite. This brings us to models for prioritization and making trade-offs consciously. The big one here is opportunity cost.
Yeah, everyone knows the term, but do we really feel it?
Probably not enough. It's not just the money you spend on option A, it's the value of the best alternative you gave up, option B. Every yes is implicitly a no to something else.
So choosing to binge watch a show tonight, option A, isn't just free time spent. The opportunity cost might be the hour you could have spent working on that side project that might actually make you money, option B.
Exactly. You have to consciously acknowledge that trade-off. The book uses an analogy of carrying heavy luggage. You can only carry so much, so choosing what to carry means choosing what not to carry.
And that connects to the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, doesn't it?
It does. The idea that often roughly 80% of your results come from only 20% of your efforts.
But finding that vital 20%, that's the hard part, right?
Oh, totally. It's not always obvious. Maybe 80% of your stress comes from 20% of your relationships, or 80% of your company's profits come from 20% of its products. The point isn't just knowing the rule, it's actively looking for that high leverage 20% and focusing your energy there rather than spreading it thinly across the less productive 80%.
Okay, so prioritize ruthlessly, but then there's actually doing the important stuff. Change is hard.
Super hard. We're creatures of habit and inertia. So the book talks about models to make change easier by managing friction.
Friction. Like resistance.
Yeah. The goal is simple. Make good behaviors easier, reduce friction, and make bad behaviors harder, increase friction.
So if I want to work out in the morning, laying out my gym clothes the night before reduces friction, makes it just a tiny bit easier to get started.
Exactly. And if you want to stop mindlessly scrolling social media, deleting the apps from your phone increases the friction needed to do it. You have to actively go to the website, log in. It adds steps.
Makes sense. Little barriers, little ramps. What if willpower just isn't enough, though?
Then you use forcing functions. These are external mechanisms you set up to basically force the behavior, taking willpower out of the equation.
Setting up an automatic savings transfer the day you get paid.
Perfect example. Or setting a hard deadline for a project and telling your boss or client about it. That public commitment is a social forcing function. It locks you in. Automated bill payments, calendar reminders that pop up, those are all forcing functions.
Okay, automating good choices. I like that. Now, these models seem very personal efficiency focused. Do they apply to, like, dealing with other people, conflicts, ethics.
Absolutely. The book has a whole section on relational models and ethics, how we interact and build systems. One really useful one is Hanlon's razor,
Oh, I think I've heard this one. Never attribute to malice.
that which can be adequately explained by stupidity, or maybe more kindly, by ignorance or error.
So when someone cuts you off in traffic, your first instinct is, that jerk did it on purpose.
Right, malice. But Hanlon's razor encourages you to pause and consider. Maybe they just didn't see you. Maybe they're distracted by something urgent. Maybe they're just having a bad day and made a mistake.
It doesn't excuse the behavior, but it stops you from immediately assuming bad intent. Saves emotional energy too, probably.
Definitely. It diffuses anger and opens up the possibility of understanding, even if you still disagree. Then, for deeper conflicts, there's the idea of the third story.
The third story? What's that?
Well, in any conflict, you have person A's story, you did this wrong, and person B's story, no, you did this wrong. The third story is the one an impartial, neutral observer would tell.
Like a mediator's perspective.
Exactly. It focuses on the observable facts, acknowledges both people's contributions to the problem, considers the context, and avoids blame. Trying to articulate that third story, even just to yourself, can completely shift how you see a disagreement.
That sounds incredibly useful for difficult conversations. What about bigger picture stuff, like fairness in systems?
For that, they bring up John Rawls's concept, the veil of ignorance. It's a powerful thought experiment.
How does it work?
Imagine you have to design the rules for a society, its laws, economic system, healthcare, whatever, but you design it from behind a veil. You have no idea what position you will occupy in that society once the veil is lifted.
So I could end up being rich or poor, healthy or sick, powerful or powerless. I just don't know beforehand.
Exactly. So how would you design the rules then? Probably you'd design them to be as fair as possible, especially for the least well-off, because you might end up being one of them.
Wow. Yeah, if you design healthcare knowing you might rely on public aid, you'll likely create a much stronger safety net than if you assume you'll always have private insurance.
It forces a consideration of fairness from all angles. These relational models really push you to use multiple perspectives.
It seems like the overall message of superthinking isn't just about having a list of models, but about building this interconnected, what do they call it, a lattice work.
Yeah, a lattice work of models. They reinforce each other. Using first principles helps you spot when anchoring is based on flawed assumptions. Understanding survivorship bias makes you question the Pareto principle derived only from winners. It's about having multiple lenses to view the world.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground. This is really about shifting from just reacting to deliberately thinking using these tools. So let's boil it down. What are the absolute key actionable takeaways someone listening can start doing, like today?
All right, let's make it concrete. Okay, number one, pick maybe 2 or 3 models that resonate most. First principles, Hanlon's razor, opportunity cost, whatever, and consciously try to apply them this week. Learn them by heart.
Okay, focus on a few first.
2, practice inversion. Next time you set a goal, spend 10 minutes brainstorming all the ways it could fail. Seriously, what are the biggest risks? Then tackle those first.
Proactive failure proofing. Got it.
3, audit your recent decisions for bias. Look back at a mistake or a near miss. Was anchoring involved? Confirmation bias, availability. Just becoming aware is a huge step.
Self-awareness. Okay.
4, simplify first. Before adding complexity, ask, what's the simplest explanation or solution that fits the facts? That's Occam's razor in action. Don't overthink if you don't have to.
Keep it simple. Good one.
5, set up at least one forcing function. Automate something: good savings, bill pay, blocking distracting websites during work hours. Make good choices the default.
Outsource willpower. Yeah.
6, use opportunity cost actively. When faced with a choice between A and B, explicitly name what you're giving up by choosing A. Write it down if you have to. Make the trade-off real.
Acknowledge the sacrifice.
Okay. 7, try Hanlon's razor in your next disagreement. Just mentally pause and force yourself to consider ignorance or error before jumping to malice. See how it changes your reaction.
Assume mistake, not malice.
Right. And 8, reflect and iterate. Look back at how your decisions turned out. What worked? What didn't? Which models helped? Which did you miss? Thinking gets better with practice and feedback.
That's a great list. It really feels like superthinking is about moving beyond just being smart to being clear, understanding the why behind your choices and mistakes.
Exactly. It's not about never making mistakes, but about making fewer dumb ones, understanding the trade-offs you accept, and building resilience. Thinking is a skill you hone.
Thank you for joining us for this summary from our channel, Book by Book. If you found this discussion useful and you want more summaries like this hitting your feed, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps us know we're on the right track.
Yeah, and if you could like this summary, maybe share it with someone else you think might find these ideas helpful. That kind of feedback honestly keeps us going and motivates us to keep digging into these books for you. We really appreciate